So I think the next thing we're going to do is create this piece up here at the top, and then we'll put in that arm last. So let's just take a look at this. And it's fairly simple, you can see it up here. So let's just jump into the right view again. And we're going to be using another cylinder to start this piece. So let's just grab one. And we're going to have to modify it a little bit, but I'm just going to start by dragging one out that's about the radius we need. So we'll just go out like that maybe. Just give it some random height. Let's put our blue material on it again so we can see what we're doing. And we're just going to lower the sides down here quite a bit. I'm going to Turbosmooth these again, so let's take it down. Looks like I had about 8 sides on it the first time, so I'm going to do that again. Let's just move this up a little bit. And you can see it doesn't really match up here, and I believe I squished it a little bit the first time, so I'm going to do that right now on the Y with scale. Just squish it down slightly, and then just line it up with the print. Just make sure it's centered on this edge here too. That looks pretty good. So let's jump into the front view and just tweak our width of the piece. And you can see actually that they're right here on the blueprint. They're actually quite thick. On here they're actually fairly thin. I actually on purpose made them a little bit thicker just so it looked a little more beefy. But that'll be up to you. If you want to make them thin like this you can, but I think I'm just going to make them a little bit wider than they are on the reference. So let's just convert this to edible poly. And I'm just going to grab the verts on one side and just pull them over. Stop right about there, and we'll tweak this side as well so it matches up like that maybe. And let's jump back into the right view, and we're just going to cut this in half. So let's go to vertex and just drag through, grab these 4 verts that are around the center and just do a connect here. And then in the right view I'm just going to grab all the top faces, so the top half, and just delete that, we don't need it. And we'll go to border here, just grab the top border. And I'll zoom in here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So just like that, and we'll just shift drag it up on the Z axis to make it a little bit taller. Like that, just so it kind of matches up with the bottom of our can up here. So I'm just going to stick it maybe right there for now. And then we'll just start adding our edge and our support in here. I think we might want to delete part of it, so let's just exit border for a second. I'm going to jump back into the front view, and I think I'm just going to trash everything but one side of it just to make it a little quicker. So I'm just going to drag through, grab everything but the outside face, and just delete it. Again, sometimes it's a little quicker just to work with a planar surface when you're doing this. So we'll get rid of everything else, and then let's just maybe go to cut here. I'm going to cut an edge right up the center from the bottom vert right up to the top edge. And then right click, and we do want to maintain quads here because we're going to Turbosmooth it, so we want to have quads down here on the corner, and that'll create them for us. We're also going to need some support up top, so let's maybe go to quick slice and just cut an edge across that matches up with the blueprint. So maybe right there, and we might want to inset these faces as well. So I'm just going to go to polygon, and let's just grab all our faces on the front. And we'll do an inset here. We're going to need to fix the top a little bit, I think, but it's okay. So inset, just crank it up a bit to about 3 or 4. Say okay to that. I'm going to go in isolation mode for a second, Alt Q, and you can see we kind of screwed up the top here, so let's just fix that. So I'm just going to turn off polygon and go back to cut. I'm just going to continue our edge loop up to the top like we did on our previous pieces, and let's actually cut one right across here as well. While we're at it, it'll be a little faster. And then we'll go to the other side and do the same thing. So just continue the support edge up to the top and across to the side. Alright, just want to make sure we support our corner when we smooth it. So we'll just throw that in. Let's turn off cut, go to edge. I'm going to take out this corner edge here and this one over here. So select it, and let's do remove here instead of control backspace, and then we're just going to take out this loop right here. So just loop that edge and control backspace this one out. Okay, just to kind of clean things up, let's maybe straighten out our center edge if we can, just a bit, like that. And I think that should work just fine. So let's exit isolation mode, take one more look. I think we're in good shape, so let's just get our thickness back. So I'm just going to exit vertex, put a shell modifier on, and we'll just crank this up to some random amount, and then just convert it to poly. And in the front view, I'm just going to readjust the width of the piece. So we'll just move it over again, like that. And it looks pretty good, but if yours is a little too wide or too thin, just use the vert selection again, like we did before, just to adjust your width. Alright, take a look in perspective. And I think we're in good shape, and like I said on the reference here, this piece is a little bit different. You can see it's got a bridge between the two. So you could throw that in just by using the geometry that's here, which I guess we might as well do. I didn't have it on the original version, but that's okay. I'm going to do it anyway just to show you how. So let's just shift drag a copy of our piece over to the other side. Like that. We'll say okay here, and then I'm going to attach these two pieces together. So we'll just click on attach again, click on the other side, make it one piece, and then let's go into isolation mode, Alt Q, and we'll jump into perspective. And this is really easy to do. Again, we'll just use bridge. So let's go to polygon and just make some poly selections here. If you want to make this piece that bridges the gap between them a little bit thicker, you could do that just by adding another edge loop across here. But I think I'll just make it thin. So let's just grab these faces here on this side, the same ones on the other side, and then just bridge it. Right, like that, and obviously we're going to need some support for this, so let's maybe start on the outside here. Grab an edge on either side, ring it, connect again, we'll do two segments and just pinch them apart. And again, we want this to have fairly hard edges, so I'm going to go about 70 or 75 on that. And then we'll do the same thing in the center. Connect it up, and we'll go a little bit wider on these guys. That should be good, so about 90. And we're going to need some around the top here, so the quickest way to do that is just use quick slice. So I'm going to jump back into the right view, just turn off edge for a sec, go into wireframe, and just use quick slice to cut another support edge here. So we'll go right across underneath that previous edge loop we had, like that. Take a look, and that's just going to add some support to the inner corner here. And I think that should hold up fine, so let's just put a Turbosmooth on it. Two iterations again, nice line. And we don't have a lot of resolution on our geometry here for the base. As you can see, it's pretty rough. So we might need to put 3 iterations of Turbosmooth on, but we'll just see how it looks with 2. You can see it's a little bit faceted here, and that's just because we have a pretty low res base mesh. So if you crank this up to 3, it would probably smooth it out almost perfectly. But I think I'll just leave it at 2 for now. Alright, so with that done, let's exit. Jump back into the right view and just make sure we have it in the right position. Looks centered, so I think we're good on that one. So let's throw the gray on. Alright, just check it out in perspective is always a good idea, just to make sure everything is actually going to work. You might want to move this down a little bit. Just want to barely touching the bottom of our can. And that should work fine. Alright, so let's save again. So let's just take another look here, and it's pretty much impossible to see what it looks like on the inside, but I assume there's some sort of a cylindrical piece here that this bolt or whatever this is actually runs through, and it's probably attached to the arm. So there's a couple different ways we can make it. We can start with a cylinder, just extrude it down, but I think it's probably a better bet to make it out of 2 pieces. So first thing I'm going to do is just right click and unhide by name. I'm going to find that face that we detached from this piece and hid, so I think it should be object 10 here. Looks like it is. So yours might have a different name, but just find this piece and unhide it, and then we'll just grab the polygon, jump into the right view, and we're just going to extrude this up so we can kind of judge where the arm needs to attach to. So let's extrude. Just crank this up to a positive amount, like that maybe, and do it on group as well. And then we'll just delete these faces on the top, we don't need those. So just trash them and then exit polygon. And for the upper piece, I'm going to start with a cylinder, so let's just grab one of those. And we'll just draw one out here that's kind of centered on our piece. Alright, just give it some random height, and I'm not sure how big it's going to need to be. It might need to be a little bigger than that, so I'm just going to crank it up. The only thing you want to pay attention to is the top here, that it's not actually intersecting the top of this piece or the can up top, so just keep an eye on that. I think I'm going to make it maybe 30. And let's turn on the cap segment as well for a second so we can kind of see where edges are. And we're going to have to figure out how to actually attach these together, so we need some extra edges on our cylinder to match up with these edges here. So let's crank this up a little bit. I'm going to do maybe 20. We are going to Turbosmooth this piece, and then I'm just going to rotate this just slightly until they kind of line up a bit better. As you can see here, they kind of match up. And we'll just turn our cap segment off now. Alright, so we can convert it to poly. And I'm just going to jump into the front view for a second, just move this over. So let's just slide it over. We want this to just fit inside these two side pieces here, so I'm going to stick it right there with a slight little tiny gap in there, and then we'll just grab the verts on the right side and just pull them over so it's kind of centered like that. And we probably don't need the side polygons, so we can probably delete those in a second. Let's just check our box here. I'm not sure it's perfectly centered. You can see it looks a little bit off here. So let's maybe grab this piece, which is the arm, the box. And I'm just going to use the align tool here just to align it to this piece. So I'm going to click down here, and we'll just do this on the X. So just make sure you untick these and leave it on center and center. And it's just going to center it this way. And then because we're going to weld these together, we're going to need some extra geometry on our cylinder to match up with these edges on the sides. So let's just go to edge, drag through the sides of the cylinder, do a connect. We'll do 2 and just pinch them apart until they match up with those edges. So it looks like about 58 or 60. Say OK. And I'm just going to grab this edge loop of verts here and just slide it over a tiny bit. Want this to be as close to perfect as we can get it so we have an easy time welding it. That side looks good, so we'll just exit vertex, and let's just make sure it's lined up with the align tool again. So I'm going to click on this piece this time, and again we're only going to do it on the X, and then say OK. So that looks pretty good. Just make sure you have a little bit of space up at the top there. So let's just delete our caps. So I'm going to just delete that one, grab this side and delete that. And then we'll just make some poly selections in the right view. So I'm just going to zoom in and grab these 3 sections of faces here that match up with the box. And then again, we're going to go into the front view and just hold Alt and deselect the sides like that. Okay, so you just have the 3 faces that match up at the top of the box, and then we can just delete those to cut a hole in it. And I'm just going to grab both pieces and just go into isolation mode here so we can see better. So Alt Q, let's put a material on that we can see. Alright, so just make sure you delete the top face of the box and cut that hole out of the cylinder, and that way we'll make sure we don't have a problem when we weld it. So let's select our box, and I'm just going to go to border, grab the top border, control click vertex to get a vert selection, turn on our edge constraints, and I'm just going to go into the right view for a second, just kind of move these down. So let's just move down until that top vert matches up with the edge of the cylinder, and then hold Alt and deselect that pair, move the rest down, deselect these ones, and then just move these down. And it's not going to match up, as you can see, perfectly, but I'm just trying to get it somewhat close. So like that, and we'll jump back into perspective, and we can attach them together now. So let's just go to attach and click on the cylinder, turn it off, and then we'll just use target weld here to just kind of make sure everything's attached together properly. So let's go to target weld, and we'll just weld this one to this one, and this one to this one, and we'll just work our way down the side here. So I'm going to grab the one on the box and weld it to the one on the cylinder, and we'll do the same thing down here. And you don't want to move the ones on the cylinder like this, because it's going to screw up the circular part, and you're going to get a weird dent in there when we smooth it, so just undo that. So just make sure you weld from the box to the cylinder and not the other way around. Okay? And this one's going to be a little tricky. There we go. So this one to there, this one to here, and this one to there. Okay, so just go around and make sure you get all 8 of them. And if you're not sure if you got it, just drag a selection around the vert and just make sure you only have one. You can do that for each set. Okay? That looks good. I think it welded, so let's just go to edge, and we're going to have to support our shape here. So let's maybe start in the center. Just grab an edge, do a ring, do a connect. And we'll do 2 this time. No slide, but I'm going to pinch them apart. So let's go maybe 80 or so on that. Say okay, and let's do one around the box shape. So ring around there, connect. This time I only need 1. No pinch, but we'll slide it up to the top. And I'm going to try to give this the appearance that it's actually a piece welded onto the other piece. So I'm going to leave the transition fairly soft between them. So let's just go up to maybe 90 on this and say okay. And then we'll have to support our sides here. So let's grab an edge on each one, ring it, connect it. We'll do 2 this time, no slide, and just pinch them apart a little bit. Maybe 45 or so. Say okay, and even though we're not going to see the sides, I might just pull the edge in a bit. So let's just grab both borders. I'm just going to shift scale these in a little bit. So hold shift, let's undo that for a sec, Control Z. Just make sure you don't have your edge constraints till turn on. And just shift drag it down, just to create a little bit of a surface there. And then we'll just add maybe an extra support edge on the outside. So ring, connect, we'll just do one this time, no pinch. And I might just leave it right there, 0 slide. So okay. And I think that should hold up okay. I'm not going to add any this way across the cylinder because again it's going to screw up our circle shape and we're going to get like a dent or a flat spot there. So we'll just leave it like that and we'll put a Turbosmooth on and see how it looks. So Turbosmooth, 2 iterations, isoline display. Take a quick look. Doesn't look too bad. And again, I want to kind of keep this soft, so I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm not going to actually fix it. I want it to look like it's kind of got a weld around there. Alright, so that's probably good for this piece. Let's put our gray shader on. We'll exit isolation mode here and just take another look at the rest of the pieces and just see if it fits. And because we use that plane that we detached, it should line up with our hole perfectly. And it looks like it does. Okay, so we're in pretty good shape here. And I think that'll work fine. So we only have a couple more pieces left to go. I'm just going to do a save here. And let's just add the final piece, which is this, and I can't really tell what that is. It doesn't really look like a bolt. You could put a bolt on there if you wanted to, or clone one that we already made and stick it over here, but I think I might just use the cylindrical piece we made down here and just copy it up. So let's just grab one of these guys. I'm going to jump into the right view for this and just shift drag a copy of it up. Drop it right there, copy it, and I'm just going to kind of line it up with the arm. I'm going to shrink it down. I don't think I want it to be that big, so I'm just going to kind of get it centered to start, and let's jump into the front view and just move it out to the outside of our piece here. And we'll go back to the red view and let's just hide this piece for a second. Throw the blue material on here so you can see through it. And I'm just going to scale it down ever so slightly uniformly. So on the triangle, just go down a little bit like that maybe. And then we just want to make sure it's positioned on the outside of our side piece. So let's right click and unhide all. And we'll just position this against the side. Just going to take another look. And it's fairly thick there, so I'm just going to stick it on like that. And we'll move one to the other side as well and see how it looks. So let's just copy this over with mirror. So I'm going to mirror on the X, copy, and OK, and then just stick one on this side over here. Just touching the surface. And then let's grab both pieces and just put our gray shader on. And we'll check it out in perspective. See how it looks. One thing we might want to do is just give it a little bit of a back edge, so it's not just interpenetrating the surface here. So I'm just going to grab one of these, go in isolation mode, and let's just drop into edit poly for a second, grab the border on the back, and again we're just going to shift scale it down to create an edge, like that. And we're probably going to need a support edge on the back now, so let's just ring around here one more time, do another connect, and we'll just use one and slide it over to the back. Going to keep this one fairly tight, like that. And let's turn on show and result. That looks okay, so let's exit. And we'll just make sure we have it positioned kind of properly here. So just want to make sure it's touching the surface. And that's just going to kind of give it more of a finished off look. So it's not just sticking right in there. Okay, so let's jump into the front view for a sec, and we're just going to copy this over to the other side again. So I'm just going to shift drag a copy on the X, say okay, and we'll just move it over here. Grab the original one there we had and delete it, and just flip this one around. So just mirror it on the X, no clone, and just pull it in until it touches again. Just like that. Alright, so let's jump out into perspective and just take a look at this thing. Alright, all our pieces are unhidden. Let's maybe just get rid of our blueprints for a second. So I'm just going to go into the display tab and just hit hide frozen objects. And I think our model's complete now. Took quite a while, but I think we have everything we need. Again, it's not 100% accurate to the in-game model, but I think it came out pretty good. One thing we might want to do is just put some color on it just so we can get a better idea of what it's actually going to look like. So I'm just going to grab a new material swatch, and let's just make a red color here. Alright, something like that. I'm going to drag this onto the can. And let's just give it a little bit of specular, like 30 or so. Take the glossiness up a little bit. And let's also make a black material. Something like that maybe. And we'll give this a little bit of specular as well. And I'm just going to grab that red piece and hit Control-I just to invert the selection so we have all the black pieces selected, and we'll just apply the black material to it. Alright, so there's our finished model. And it took quite a while to get done, but it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And hopefully you got a good result on yours as well. And in the next part, we're actually going to start unwrapping it and getting ready for some textures. So yeah, that takes care of the modeling portion finally. So hopefully you learned something from this and enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next part. Thanks for watching.